Hello guys, what's up? So in this video we are going to see and look at what is Docker architecture, what are Docker objects and what is Docker registry. Okay, very important for your coding interviews and your interview preparations and also for learning perspective also. Okay, so let's see what the Docker is. So Docker uses client server architecture and it is having three components: Docker CLI, REST API and Docker daemon. So these are the three components that are very important for you to understand the architecture of the Docker part. Okay, let's dive deep into while looking into the example part. Okay, so let us suppose, so we have three things. First is Docker CLI. Okay, this is CLI. In the middle there is REST API. Okay, REST API, and there is Docker daemon. Okay, Docker daemon. So this Docker CLI is your command line command line interface. It's a command line interface, the command line interface that you have seen. So you write some command for the Docker. Let us suppose docker run SQL. You have written this. So what happened with this? What happened with this? You want to run a container having SQL server installed in this. Okay, and it should be runnable. Okay, you want to run a SQL server. Okay, so you have written this. Now what happen is, now the request goes to an interface which is known as REST API. Okay, and then it is going to Docker daemon. Okay, now Docker daemon, what it will do, it will see, okay, this is an SQL run statement. So what I need to do, I just first deploy this SQL, pull this image if I'm having, and want to run it, make it runnable. Okay, make it runnable. So Docker daemon is what it is doing. It is used to deploy, create a container. Okay, and it is also managing the containers that have been deployed. Okay, it takes the images and deploy it. Okay, so this is the basic. So REST API, what it is this? So you can say that REST API acts as an interface between this Docker daemon and CLI. Why? Because there might be situation that there is one machine. Okay, this is your local machine. Let us suppose your local machine. So you have CLI and daemon in here. Okay, you can able to access it. But the scenario, which if you are a professional, working professional, then what happen is you have an AWS instance. Okay, and there is a Docker daemon. Okay, there is a Docker daemon. Now you want to access this AWS Docker daemon, and you are in, let us suppose, in Tokyo. Okay, so with this CLI you can able to do that. So that interface CLI, okay, REST API, okay, is very helpful for you to do the conversation part. Okay, so this conversation you can able to generate between this remote CLI and this might be these are the two situations that is possible. Okay, so what it is, so I hope you understand the basic architecture. So this is a client CLI. It is requesting for something that needs to be deployed. Okay, he wants a service, this client wants a service, so client server architecture it is working on. Okay, now I hope you are clear with these definitions. Now we'll see. Docker uses a client server architecture. Docker CLI used to run the commands. Okay, very common. REST API acts as an interface between daemon and the CLI. Docker daemon, it is used to manage images and containers. I hope you get an idea. Okay, so this is your client and this is your host. So this image has been taken from the official Docker site. You can also check out. Okay, so it acts as an interface. Here you can see you have a REST API which is used to generate the communication between the Docker daemon and the client. Okay, we'll see this later. Okay, let's first make ourselves more clear with these objects part, and then we'll get to this image part. Okay, so now first of all, what is Docker object? Okay, so there are four types of objects you can see. First is image. So what is an image? Okay, everyone is telling what is an image. So I'll tell you one definition which is helpful for you. Okay, so you can understand image as a template. Okay, it is a template of how you want your container to be run. Okay, you just write here, I want SQL server to be run on a server. Okay, I want an SQL server to be running. So what I type, I write in a file that these are the things that I want to run. Okay, what it will does. So this is an image where you write all the instruction that you want to deploy inside a container. Okay, whatever application you want to run, you can define inside that image. Just you can say that written part, a template. Okay, so read only template used for creating Docker container like OS or applications. So what is OS? What is application? OS means Ubuntu. You want Ubuntu to be run. Okay, you want Windows to be run. You want Mac OS to be run. Okay, these are the things. And for the applications, let us suppose you have developed a software code. Okay, you have write a software code and you want to deploy this inside a container. Okay, how you can do it? You just first write those things inside this image, the whole instruction, what are your code, okay, what all dependency it wants, your code wants SQL or not. Okay, if it wants, you need to write down. So that image, that template is known as image. Okay, now what is container? Container helps in running the image, very important. So in order to make this thing runnable, you want to deploy this code, you want to make SQL server to be running, that is known as container. So we can create, start, stop, move or delete a container. Okay, you can say that the image, running image, is known as the container. Okay, fourth object is your network. So helps container to be able to communicate with each other. Okay, what it means? Okay, let's understand this thing with an example. Okay, so you have a software code. Let us suppose you have written a software code in Python. Okay, so what it does, and you have an SQL server also. Okay, this is in container 1, this is in container 2. So two images for container 1 and container 2, separate images for a container. Okay, just remember this thing. Okay, so so what the scenario case study is, you have a file. Okay, you want to process this file and store the result that you have processing. While processing this file, you want to store this result here, SQL server. So but the problem is the SQL server is in different container. How you can store? Within the same container, you have only configured the software code, not the database. So what you need to do, you need to generate a communication between those containers. So that communication, that configuration that we need to set up the communication between the two containers is known as the network component of this Docker. Okay, I hope you get an idea. Okay, now what is a volume? So volume is in persisting the data across the containers. Okay, one more thing, let us suppose this is your process. Okay, you send a file, this container is process it and store it inside this container. Then what happen? After execution, these container will automatically get to the stopping state. Okay, so what happen is, when you have deployed these containers and you have passed the files, okay, now what happen is the containers will automatically shut down. Okay, so in that case our data that we have stored inside this SQL, okay, that has been lost because that container is stopped. How we can retrieve our information? Okay, so for that we need to do the mapping. Okay, so this running container should be you can say that should be map with a database which is outside this daemon, outside the daemon. This is known as volume mapping. Okay, or you can say that volume for a particular, in order to do some persistency. Okay, in order to store the data that has been generated while execution of the process, you want to store it, and in that way you need to store it. Okay, this is known as volume storage. Okay, so in the first stage you might seem this thing a difficult one, but when you get through the process, and we'll see how the mounting works, how we can able to generate a network, how we can able to communicate these networks. Okay, so everything will see in detail. Okay. Okay, so now let's come to the registry part. Okay, so what is a registry? So okay, let us suppose you have written an image. Okay, this is my Docker image. Okay, you have write the Python code and you want an SQL server, all the things you have written. But the thing is, you don't want to write it again and again. You want this image to be available to your public. Okay, so they just like a GitHub is storing the codes. Okay, make your code available to the public. Okay, GitHub, okay, you can able to access it. Just like that, there is a image repository. Okay, there is a repository, or you can say that registry. Okay, just like a repository for the code, there is a registry for images, where a registry stores a Docker image. So you have one time you have write this code, okay, and you want to reuse this image again and again in any platform. The beauty of the Docker is you can run a particular image in any platform. This is the beauty of this Docker. Make this thing point, remember. Okay, so Docker, you just want to you just want to have a Docker inside your local machine, or wherever you want to run. Just you just need to pull, you just need to pull pull the image. Okay, and your Docker image or your software is running, up and running. This is the beauty of the you can say that Docker. Okay, very important point, very important point for your examinations also. Okay, so a registry stores Docker images and is used to publish and share images publicly and within the private organization. So let us suppose you have a ABC company and you don't want to share it with the public, so you have created your own registry, private registry ABC. You have written an image, okay, and you don't want this image to be stored shared with others, so you have to create your own registry, and that will see, okay, in the coming section we'll see how to create your own registry. Okay, I hope you get an idea. So this is the important thing. Okay, now what is this? So Docker Hub is public registry that anyone can use, and Docker is configured to look for images on Docker Hub by default. Okay, so by default your Docker publicly, Docker Hub is our by default registry, just like GitHub. Okay, there is a Docker Hub which is your by default registry. So let me just give you a process. Okay, let us suppose you are doing the Docker run. Okay, you just write Docker run SQL. Okay, so in the CLI, what happen is, in the CLI you have write this. So with through the REST API it is going to Docker daemon. Okay, Docker daemon. Okay, it is going to Docker daemon. Now Docker daemon will see locally, is my SQL is available or not. If not, it is automatically going to a registry. Okay, it is automatically going to registry. It is checking that whether my local is having this. No, my local is not having, so should I need to go to registry and get that SQL image, okay, and deploy it in my Docker daemon. So this is the full architecture of the Docker. I hope you get an idea in one go. Okay, I hope you get an idea. Now we'll see the image that has been published in the official Docker site. So this is a client architecture, you can see. So this is my client architecture, or we can say that CLI, and in between there is a REST API. Okay, there is a REST API which is acts as a interface between this Docker daemon and CLI. Okay, now you can see if the image is not present here, it is going to this registry. You can see registry, okay, and get that image. If it is not available, make this thing point in mind, okay, and then the daemon will deploy the containers of those images. You can see this is my image, so it will do the deployment of this image in a container. I hope you get an idea. Okay, I hope you like this video. Okay, we'll see you in the next. Happy learning.